There ain't no future unless we build it now. Unless we build it now. United States, Africa, we salute ya. A new state of mind, I introduce ya. Close your eyes and visualize the rise of a new paradigm. Solar powered skyscrapers.
Welcome to the Africa Must Unite podcast, a podcast dedicated to inspiring African people worldwide to rise up, organize, and struggle for Pan-Africanism, a unified, liberated, socialist Africa, the only permanent solution to the exploitation and oppression of African people, no matter where they happen to be born or happen to live in the world. Now please, welcome the hosts of Africa Must Unite.
Africa's future is now, so get ready.
Pan-African greetings out there, all you Africans and friends of the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party. I'm Mama D of the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, PRSP. Welcome to the Africa Must Unite podcast. This is 2020, and all year long we are delighted to be featuring revolutionary Pan-African socialist organizations, those at home and those abroad. Now, these are organizations who share our belief and that of Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah that a unified socialist Africa is not only the permanent solution to our exploitation and oppression as a people, but also that this objective is the quickest solution to our exploitation and oppression. And this month, we feature the All African People's Revolutionary Party, AAPRP. While they have work studies all over the world, we will speak to the Ghana chapter today. But first, as always, we'd like to begin with important dates in the month of March. These are important dates not only in regard to us as a people, so they reflect African history, but also the history of progressive and revolutionary people throughout the world, because we have something to learn from the ways in which other people who are struggling for socialism and communism did, what strategy they used, what tactics they used, how did they begin, how did they organize. So our calendar, the important dates that we always mention, not only deal with us as a people, but also those histories of progressive and revolutionary people throughout the world. So let us get started. So in March, the first date that we have that's very important, the 2nd of March, Angolan Women's Day. The 4th of March, Zinzi Miriam Makeba, South African singer, activist, was born in 1932. On the 6th, Ghana gained political independence from British colonialism in 1957. This is one of the greatest days in the history of African people throughout the world, since from this time forward, during Nkrumah's time, Ghana was used as a base for the African Revolution. So, this date is key. On the 8th, Harriet Tubman, slave liberator and scout, was born in 1820. I think about her a lot. Give me the strength of the ancestors, man, in the political consciousness of them. Today, too, on the 8th of March, International Women's Day on the same day. On the 13th, we have the People's Revolutionary Government of Grenada was established in 1979. And on this same date, the 13th of March, Lillian Ngoyi, member of the Executive Committee of the ANC, died in 1980. On the 14th, Fannie Lou Hamer died in 1977. You remember, we always remember what she said, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, struggling against the capitalists, in regard to just voting rights and things like that." That's what she was referring to. On the 16th of March, the Organization of Mozambican Women was formed in 1973. On the 19th of March, France defeated by National Liberation Front of Algeria in 1962 after 8 years of war and over 1 million Africans killed. On the 20th, Africans in Ethiopia routed Italian fascists in 1896. On the 21st of March, Sharpeville Massacre. South African police gunned down peaceful demonstrators against past laws in 1960. And on the same date, the 21st of March, Namibia gains its independence from South Africa in 1990. On the 23rd, Walter Rodney, Pan-Africanist, author, historian, and revolutionary, born in 1942. And we remember his classic work, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. We still study it. On the 25th of March, Ida B. Wells died in 1931. You remember she said something like, better to fight than to die like a trapped rat? I know I didn't say that. I didn't quote that exactly right, but that's how I remember it. On the 26th, Ahmed Sékou Touré died in 1984. And we're still studying right now his work, Africa on the Move. Beautiful, informative, enlightening work. Not just about, Africa Unite, but how we are part of and cannot be safe until we talk about worldwide socialism and worldwide communism. A wonderful work to study. On the 27th, Shirley Graham Du Bois, author and Pan-Africanist, died in 1977. She was the head of Ghana's TV service, and more than just the wife of W.E.B. Du Bois, she is very important in her own right. And on the 31st, the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Africa, RNA, was founded in Detroit, Michigan in 1968. Now, we didn't read everything. It's a lot of dates on here. Almost every day in March, has a date. And we always taught our children, and we teach ourselves that even if there is a blank date in a month on our calendar, it's meaningless. We know each and every day the people struggle, our people struggle, and make history. That's the important thing to remember, isn't it? Because we wouldn't exist without the people and our people. Isn't that right? So, now what we'd like to do is to really focus on what we're doing throughout this whole year. And I'd like to read in our 2020 calendar, which is entitled Revolutionary Pan-African Socialist Organizations, those at home and those abroad. This is what we state in the introduction to this calendar. In Class Struggle, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah wrote, "The total liberation and unification of Africa under an all-African socialist government must be the primary objective of all Black revolutionaries throughout the world. It is an objective which, when achieved, will bring about the fulfillment of the aspirations of Africans and people of African descent everywhere. But only an organized people can achieve this objective of Pan-Africanism. The Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party's, PRSP's 2020 calendar features active revolutionary Pan-African socialist organizations that are based at home in Africa or that are in the African diaspora. All of these organizations share Dr. Nkrumah's belief that permanent liberation for African people will come about only when Africa is liberated, united, and socialist. This objective of Pan-Africanism is the primary quest of each of the organizations represented. And so, this month, we feature the All-African People's Revolutionary Party because this objective is most definitely the quest of AAPRP. And let me just read, each of these organizations represented in our calendar submitted a page that talks about themselves, the objective, their program, whatever, and gives us information about where we can contact them. This is important because if we're going to effectively politically educate our people throughout the world, we can do it best by forming coalitions, movements of similar organizations. So, some of us may be small in one area of the world. Some of us are bigger, but together, all of us who share that same vision, quest, objective of a unified socialist Africa need to come together in terms of making this happen. This is the African Revolution. And we can do this more effectively by coming together. And just one part of that is, by teaching, politically educating the youth of the world. We can do this more effectively. Just what we're doing today, just what we did with our calendar in 2020 calendar. This calendar is not just about PRSP. This calendar is about all of us who share the belief that a unified socialist Africa is our solution. So, this calendar represents how we are thinking, how we are poised to come together and not say, oh, this organization is that organization. No, we're all in this together because survival and progress for our people. Our people are dying, y'all. So we got to come together as organizations. And this is what this is all about. This is what this whole calendar is about. All of our Africa Must Unite podcasts for 2020. This is what we are about. Trying to come together, as Nkrumah called for, in the classic work, A Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare. He talked about revolutionary organizations coming together. And we need to do that. That is not outdated. That is really important. So we feature today the All African People's Revolutionary Party, and the page they submitted to our calendar reads like this. Some aspects of the AAPRP, that's how it starts. The All African People's Revolutionary Party, AAPRP, is a permanent, independent, socialist, revolutionary, Pan-African political party based in Africa, the just homeland of African people all over the world. The AAPRP understands that, quote, all people of African descent, whether they live in North or South America, the Caribbean, or in any other part of the world, are Africans and belong to the African nation. That's from Kwame Nkrumah, Class Struggle in Africa, page 87. This is their page. I'll continue. The next section says objective. The AAPRP is an integral part of the Pan-African and world socialist revolutions. Guided by its ideology, Nkrumahism, Touréism, it is struggling to become a mass party capable of politically educating and organizing the masses of oppressed Africans living, suffering, and struggling in over 113 countries in the world, in order to release and channel their revolutionary mass energy and potential toward the attainment of Pan-Africanism, the total liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism. This is a historically determined necessity. This is the end of the quote from their page that they submitted, and we have it for March in the calendar. And you can contact them, www.aaprp-intl.org, or Facebook at AAPRP, Twitter at AAPRP. Okay, so we are looking forward to having a discussion with members or member of AAPRP. So in a short while, we'll bring that member forward. Welcome, Pan-African Revolutionary greetings. Welcome to Africa Must Unite podcast. And we're so thankful for you agreeing to take time away from your organization and from organizing our people to share your knowledge with us. We're so thankful. we'd like for you to first introduce yourself.
All right, so I'm here with Brother Albie. So if I'm done with my introduction, then he will also introduce himself. So my name is Na Ajile Awula Akwasha, or you can call me Na, and I'm in Ghana. Currently, I work at the Du Bois Center, and I'm a member of the AAPRP. So I'm calling from Ghana today, and I'm happy to be on the podcast this time again. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Okay, so Brother Albie.
Okay, and I also am here in Ghana, and I'm here in Accra, Ghana, Albie Walls, and I'm a member of the Ghana chapter of the All African People's Revolutionary Party. And I'm also grateful and happy to have an opportunity to participate in this podcast.
That is so beautiful. We can't thank you enough. We've had you on before, and you shared some enlightening information for our people. And so we're just grateful you're here. And we like to start off, if you don't mind. And of course, you know, Sister Na, Brother Albert, you can add anything else that you want to. But we wanted to start off with some history of the AAPRP, the All African People's Revolutionary Party.
Okay, that's fine. Since Brother Albie is a senior kid, I would allow him or ask him to talk about the history of the AAPRP.
Well, we may know that the AAPRP, All African People's Revolutionary Party, was formally called for the first time in 1967 by Osadifo Kwame Nkrumah in a book he published called The Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare, where he said at that time that obviously his goal and objective had been for some time the liberation and unification of the continent of Africa under scientific socialism. And he felt that the best way to do that would be to unite revolutionary Pan-Africans, revolutionaries, Pan-Africanists from around the world and across the continent together in one political organization. And that political party he called the All African People's Revolutionary Party. So since that time, we have been trying to build that organization, to build that mass-based political party that would unite all African people and all revolutionary Pan-African organizations into one solid force. So here in Ghana, we start, as you may know, after the CIA-inspired coup d'etat that overthrew the Nkrumah government, he ended up in Guinea, where he continued to work with Sekou Touré. But the AAPRP was banned, like most political organizations, revolutionary political Pan-African organizations in Ghana for some time. But the AAPRP came back to Ghana in the late 1970s. And since then, we have been building, continuing the work that Nkrumah started here on the ground in Ghana. So we are small here, working with mostly young people, youth, students, trying to build up that revolutionary Pan-African political party here in Ghana.
That's some just wonderful information. I mean, it's the youth that we're struggling to organize mainly. And of course, I mentioned already earlier before you two came on board that AAPRP have work studies all over the world. So, you know, we're just focusing on Ghana right now, but our people know that your presence is widespread, and that's so beautiful. The other thing is, as you know, we are trying to feature and highlight Pan-African revolutionary organizations who are, their quest is a unified socialist Africa. And we're trying to reach these organizations throughout the continent and throughout the diaspora. So, you know, just a quick mention of a little history of Ghana might be important for those who might be new to the whole quest and may not know as much about Ghana as others. So if you could say a little bit about the history of Ghana, the colonizer, whatever you want to say, that would be appreciated.
Okay. All right, that's fine. So, Ghana is a former British colony that gained its independence through Dr. Kwame Nkrumah on March 6, 1957. And it is politically independent. It's 63 years now, and I would say basically it's a neo-colonial state that is caught in a colony in terms of the West. So we still are economically bound to the West, even though we are politically independent. We are bound to China, to Britain, India, Russia, and all other places. But we are in West Africa, so we are bordered by quite a number of countries, and Nigeria is one, Togo is one, Benin is one, Ivory Coast is also one of the countries that borders Ghana.
And see, that's some important information. And one of the things that you were talking about is how you're still tied to some of these developed countries. They call them developed countries, not developed in terms of humanity or humanism, collectivism, egalitarianism, but in terms of their material environment, including China and England and Great Britain and other places. But what in Ghana? What's the enemy's presence like there in Ghana? I mean, what is happening there? In terms of some of these capitalist realities that are in Ghana right now.
Okay, so Brother Albi would like to also highlight your question on what the realities of some of these countries that I've mentioned are in Ghana, like China's presence in Ghana or the West, what the realities are.
Yes, as Sister Nam mentioned, we are very much a neo-colony, meaning we are not really in control of our own destiny, even though we have political independence. So it's independence in theory, but in practice and reality, we are really controlled by outsiders. So this is a new colony, new form of colonization. And the colonization is much similar to, much like other parts of Africa, the Caribbean, South America, Asia, where they're independent countries, but they're, again, controlled by the major political, military, and economic powers of the world. So Western Europe, America, Asia, China, Japan, all have a major say in what happens on the continent of Africa and in Ghana in particular. So in terms of dictating, basically our natural resources and our labor are taken advantage of and exploited by others. So we get so-called, what they've been able to use the term investment. So for them, they're investing, and that is for the West, or for our neo-colonial powers, they are investing, meaning that, they are just taking advantage. They are taking our natural resources out at very cheap prices, using our labor to do the mining and the farming and the difficult work at very low wages, less than $2 US per day in general, to take advantage of us and take those resources out. And then they process and manufacture things outside and then sell it back to us at an inflated price. So it makes life very difficult when you don't control your own resources and you don't control the value for your labor. So that's another way in which we are taking advantage of. So they can control us politically, because if we don't take these in so-called investments, then we see governments that are overthrown, political assassinations, all kinds of things that transpire when the neo-colony doesn't follow the dictates or the orders of the colonial powers. So that's the situation. So bottom line is that the majority of the population is suffering and struggling under very difficult conditions. There is a class of people, though, who are in the middle, who are benefiting from this situation. They are kind of like, back in the old days of slavery in the West, they are kind of like the overseers. they are the ones, they are paid or they are treated well to make sure the majority of the population is taken advantage of. So they are the middlemen. They are the class of people who work for these foreign corporations and foreign governments as agents. And so they live very comfortably. If you come to Ghana, Accra in particular, you will see lots of what is so-called development, which looks like Western shopping malls, high-rise buildings, freeways, etc. But they're really only benefiting. The only people who can benefit or take advantage of those those luxuries really is a small percentage of the population.
And you talk about these people. We sometimes in revolutionary organizations we call them puppets, and Nkrumah class struggle called them the true enemy of the African people. Because with them there, they allow the exploitation and oppression to go on. And I just had a question: is there any particular country that's present there? Like, do you see the Chinese there? Any other oil companies there? As we understand, there's some oil on the offshore in Ghana. Is there a physical presence that you see there as well?
Yeah, there are lots of physical presence of European companies here, and Chinese companies also building roads, and in the oil blocks offshore, there are lots of European countries as like European companies as well.
And just do you think the reality for sisters and youth are a little worse, or what is the reality for sisters in Ghana and the youth in Ghana?
Can you please repeat that again?
Yes, I was just wondering, is there any particular hardship for sisters in Ghana?
Okay, like current reality in Ghana.
In Ghana, for sisters and youth.
So currently we have the COVID-19, which is everywhere in the world, and it's getting us panicking. Today, for instance, I learned that the markets will be fumigated on Monday, and so most of our markets are being rushed to. People are trying to get anything they can get, so that if in case there's any hardship during the week, it won't bring. It will not be compounded with families. I would say that our societal structure is difficult when it comes to women. The thing is, we are brought up in a way that the positions is such that we must go to school and marry, have children, and take care of their family. So women find it difficult in getting into high positions or even to position. The societal structure is very difficult for women. And then I also see that there's poverty, prostitution, a lot of economic deprivation, poor infrastructure, low income, unemployment, drug abuse, alcohol abuse. You find all of these in any part of the world you go to. But since I've not been to many places and this is the place of my birth, I see a lot of that amongst the youth, especially drug abuse, where you find even graduates from the universities abusing drugs, or people from good homes, and what one will call bad homes. I don't know what that is, but just abusing any form of drug. And then the theory of going to school and getting a job is not that much here. These days, you must go to a particular school to get work for a particular school. Let's say if you want to go into business, then you must educate yourself at the business school to forge forward. And then for the youth also, there's housing problem. Housing is not cheap here. It's very difficult for young people to own their own homes, or even if it's a one-bedroom apartment, it's very difficult, because if we have the unemployment rate is very high. So it becomes difficult for the young ones young people, I mean from 18 years to, let's say, 40, to afford a decent accommodation. It's very difficult. And then we have electricity and water problems. During this COVID-19 times, I've had the privilege of getting a text message from the Ghana Water, which is encouraging us to save water because they may be shutting down. And then I came home and saw that, yes, I don't have water. The taps have been turned. So as to whether it will come on later in the day or when it will come on, I have no idea when. But at least they alerted us that they are facing some challenges, and so they'll be turning the taps. Electricity is also expensive. So, and then especially, we also don't have a lot of hospitals or the basic amenities. Accessing them is very difficult for even the eldest. Talk of the youth. So the youth face a lot of challenges. But the government, this current government, for instance, I've realized they brought up some economic buffers. So they started by pushing entrepreneurship. And I know a few people will benefit from it, but at least they've done something. So we hope that the subsequent governments that come will be looking at such and helping the youth as well. But Brother Albie can also add something.
Can I? Sorry.
Sister Na has said it's very challenging. So you find because of unemployment and poverty, that's why I think a number of youth turn to things like alcohol and drugs to kind of eliminate some of the pain and the frustration and the discouragement about, what I was hoping or had been told that if I work hard, I go to school, these things will result. And then you don't find them. And you see people around you driving in nice big SUVs, having multiple houses, and it can be, discouraging. You don't understand why. I did everything I was told to do. I worked very hard. I studied. And all of that, now I'm still struggling. I can't afford an apartment. I can't afford to get married. I can't afford to have children. So it makes people look for ways to dull the pain and look for other options. And one of them is, unfortunately, abuse of drugs or alcohol. Another is religion. You see religions growing very fast here as people are looking for a place for some hope. And that is one place that, many of us find solace and find comfort is, well, maybe if I'm suffering here, if I pray, hard enough, at least one day, maybe some good things will come to me. So you see some of the fastest growing sectors of the economy are those which are religious-based. So you see many growing churches, small and large churches growing, which has become, and you see many young people. Unlike maybe in the West where it's older folks who go to these institutions, here you see young people as well, because there's, it's not a lot of options, not a lot of other things to do, because it seems as if the harder you work, it's helping somebody else benefit, somebody else get rich. So this working hard.
And Brother Albie,
don't have running water, don't have hospitals, and things. So it's a big challenge. It's not easy, but I think one thing having lived elsewhere as well as in Ghana, I can see there's no enough. At this point, people are still looking for ways to make things better. They have not become hopeless. There's a large sector of the population that is looking for options to make it better.
And Sister Nye,
some hope and confidence that we will find a solution.
And Sister Nye, your presence as AAPRP is a help too. Just being there and teaching the people who the enemy is, and who these puppets are that are aiding the enemy in their exploitation and oppression. That's important too. And I was just thinking that you were talking about drugs and also, religion and all. But and another escape, I guess, a physical escape is actually trying to leave and get into Europe, and other places because, you're so hopeless and stuff like that in terms of your future. in many places in Africa. And the other thing you mentioned, coronavirus, which is scaring all of us right now throughout the world. But when it first raised its head, I was thinking, please don't get into Africa, don't go home, because you just mentioned just the fact of you don't have running water. So, the idea of abiding by these standards of washing your hands, and a business of not having, some people not having toilets, but have to share toilets. And what about hygienic materials, hand sanitizer, and people can't.
Yeah, so that's the challenge now. There are hand sanitizers, but over a period when the first two cases of coronavirus showed its head in Ghana, from the market, online, news and all, you could tell that hand sanitizers prices have shot up. I mean, ridiculously. I mean, the size I was getting for 20 CDs was being from online somewhere. You can see that it's being sold for 120, which is like a 600 ml of hand sanitizer. It's being sold for 120 Ghana cedis, which will, I don't know how much that will be now in the US dollars, but that was way like expensive. And the small ones which were sold for, let's say, $1, selling for $2 or $3 in the market. So people started complaining, because you couldn't even find them. But today I was in the market and I saw that there are new ones which are coming up. The University in Kumasi, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, has also come up with some hand sanitizers, and so I think those are also in the market. But capitalism reigns. I mean, the market, men and women decide how much they sell these things. Like common food for us here is gari, which is made from cassava. And gari was selling us at 3 days ago for 8 cities. And then you go to the market today and it's 10, 12 cities. So the basic things for us to wash our hands with, like you mentioned, if the Ghana water is turning off water, how are people going to get water to wash their hands? But we hope that the hand sanitizers we won't get short on them. There will be enough for people to have them, so that at least even if the taps are not flowing, at least we can have some hand sanitizers to sanitize, and other tissues that have antibacterial properties in them that we can use.
And Sister Nye, the other thing they're talking about here in Europe and in US and all is self-distancing, self-isolation. Who are you talking about? I mean, even in certain parts of the US, African people here in central cities and what they call the ghettos or whatever it is, they can't self-distance like that, or self-isolation. And you talk about at home in Africa, you got to take the mini buses, the trotros, right?
Yeah.
So, it's just so sad. But maybe we can.
Isolation is I don't know how we will do it, because if you have to go to work, like Brother Albi mentioned, economically it's very challenging. So you have to go to work, you have to be on the trotro or the batatas. So how do you self-isolate when you're on the bus with about 15 more people? How do you self-isolate? I heard from one of my colleagues on the job. She and I were talking, and then she told me on the bus to work yesterday, there was a white lady on the bus, and nobody wanted to sit beside the lady because people have the idea that they may be carriers of the virus. So, but they were on the bus. So I asked her, where did you sit? And she said she sat behind the white lady. I said, but behind her, you can still get it if she decides to cough or anything, So it's difficult with the self. And then there was another person was telling me how he heard on the radio when somebody had called in and said he came from China long before Ghana had its first case of the coronavirus. And he said according to the person who was being interviewed on radio, the person had mentioned that they were told at the airport to self-isolate. And while they were talking to him on the radio, he was walking out to go and buy something from the community. So how is this person self-isolating?
It's something when you talk about Africa, but we're going to end on a positive note because, they were talking about Taiwan for an example that has a National Health Command Center that they had established back in 2004. And Sister Na, Brother Albie, if you just think about the possibility that, we had, under Nkrumah to talk about a unified socialist Africa when, we would be at a whole nother level with a national health program. And, you could just envision what our homeland would be like today. And you talk about no running water. I mean, the whole idea Nkrumah had was that we have so many ways to get water and electricity and all of that to everybody if we just unified. So, the last question for you and Albie was just, this question of why does the reality there in Ghana and convince you in AAPRP that a unified socialist Africa is the solution for African people, no matter where they're born or live in the world?
Okay, so to me, I would say that this is the last question, and Brother Albie can also or will contribute on that. But I would say that the indicators are pointing to socialism to me, because all around the world, the middle-income countries, we have a lot of middle-income countries, yet poverty level is still the same. It's not changing. In Ghana, we can see no jobs, no health facilities. We have health facilities, but they are not enough for the people. You see people having homes that they rent, but we are to use the Ghana cedi, but people charge in dollars and in pounds. If you have money, you get the best education you want. So if you don't have the money, it means you cannot get those educations. So to me, a socialist agenda will help almost all the policies in the world, especially with trade. But Brother Albie can add
something to, a unified socialist Africa.
To me, even this whole coronavirus thing further emphasizes or highlights how this current capitalist system is totally failing us. Because as Sister Now was talking about, you see the things that the people need most: water, hand sanitizer, space, so that we can, separate ourselves from each other. Those things become even more difficult to get because under the capitalist system, the prices are increased because of profit. People are more interested in making money than they are in curing and helping people stay healthy. So that to me is an essential part of, a difference between a socialist and a capitalist system is what is our priority? Is it like, I can go in and buy up all of the toilet rolls and then I can now make a lot of profit because I have all of them and I can sell them for an inflated price? Or everyone needs a toilet roll, so let me give them out free. Or let me give everyone hand sanitizer for a reasonable price to everyone. That way we'll all be safer. But that is not the priority. The priority is how much money can I make from buying up all of the hand sanitizers and then inflating the price so I can make a lot of profit. So that is, to me, an essential primary difference between a capitalist and a socialist system, where we can see it would be much better for our life or our health in a different kind of system. And the same thing with the unification of Africa. You see almost, I hate the fact that we have 19 cases of coronavirus in Ghana right now. Almost all of them have come from people. I'm sorry?
8 people have been cured. So there are 9.
8 people have been cured. Okay, so now there are some 9 or 10 or so who are still with the virus, have not yet been treated or cured. But almost everybody has brought it in from outside. coming from America, coming from Asia. They brought it here, and then we're going to suffer the consequences because we don't have the infrastructure to provide the necessary lifestyle, the health facilities to protect us. So, but if we are united, there will be no need for us to run from Africa to go to Europe, to go to America, go to Asia for economic opportunity. We could stay right here, and then we wouldn't be bringing in these things from outside. Not to say that we won't have our own challenges. Certainly we will have health issues, diseases, and things in Africa that we will always have to deal with. But even that, we can deal with it better when we are united instead of having Ghana, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, each of the health systems trying to deal with them independently. And, we are a small country. 30 million people, you have populations in the U.S. That's like one city in China. But we are having a treaty like it's a country, and we don't have the facilities, we don't have the resources as a country to deal with something like a global virus, a global pandemic. So that's another benefit that will come when we unite Africa, 1 billion plus people, then we have the resources that we can devote to solving the problem. But right now we are separated into some 55 different small, unviable entities, each of them with their own health department, their own water company, own electricity company, trying to solve these issues. It's just not possible. So that's why it's essential that we unite Africa and with a socialist system so that we can all at least benefit in some way from the resources that are here.
And I mean, you make some very good points, because with a central plan, when you have a unified socialist Africa and you have a central plan, then you're talking about not only using the vast resources that are still there and at home, no matter the years of exploitation, but also the way to plan for the people. When you talk about socialism, you're talking, as you mentioned, Albie, economic system for the benefit of the people. So you're looking at a national health system that can address the people's needs and the building of hospitals and all of that. And so you just think, Taiwan is a small country and it has established such a national plan, and Africa could do the same thing if we just unite and establish socialism as our economic system. And it's going to happen because every day we get faced with there's no alternative. There are two paths. We can go the capitalist way and of exploitation and oppression, or we can become a unified socialist Africa. But I thank you, Sister Nye and Brother Albie. This has been the most fruitful discussion. And, our people need to hear about the struggles and challenges and solutions that are going on there in Ghana and throughout the world. We thank you so very much.
Thank you, too, for having us.
So I know we got a lot of benefit from that wonderful discussion. Sister Nye, Brother Albie of the All African People's Revolutionary Party, AAPRP. This has just been so very informative. We would like you, the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, to join us next month when we will be featuring the Amilcar Cabral Ideological School, the ACIS movement, another organization whose quest is a unified socialist Africa. Meanwhile, please leave comments on our website, prsponline.org, like us on soundcloud.com, visit us on YouTube, and like us on Facebook. Remember, organization is the key. Join us, the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, or some other revolutionary Pan-African socialist organization. And remember, a union of African socialist states is on the horizon.
Figure. Madasi. To the people of Accra, Madasi. To Ghana overall, Madasi. This one's here for you, Madasi. celebrating 20 years and counting. Infinite bars flowing like Boaty Falls up on a mountain, fighting for my freedom like I'm from Jamestown. Got the Royal Kente cloth, microphone and crown. At the market and my cola, vibing with the people. Street entrepreneurs at street signs, I see you. Broadcasting from Osu, Republic Bar and Grill, chill. Catch good music and catch a meal. I love Ghana for real. You gotta feel me. Give me 1 year and I'll be rhyming in tree. Black Star Square, Black Star return home. Word to the motherland, now you know it's on. Riding down February 28th road. Home of food, jollof rice and banku, okra stew. Been to Ghana feeling brand new, motivated. I wanna say this to you, Madasi. Tell the people of Accra, Madasi. Ghana overall, say Madasi. This one's here for you, Madasi. Madasi. Yeah, the return, but I didn't see no dungeons. But I saw many people that look like my cousins. No, I'm not a foreigner, some return home. YFM heard me rocking live on the microphone. Kwame Nkrumah went to his shrine. Not a day go by without Africa on my mind. Standing tall and proud like the Wawa tree. Deep roots produce new branches and leaves. The Boy Center, Marcus Garvey Guest House. Higher level rocking years, no doubt. All I'm thinking about is how to get back to the continent. Everything is all black. The lady at the market called me Return Kings. All I saw in Ghana was beautiful black queens. Bringing back people resources when I come. Guided by the spirit of the drum. What I say is Madasi. To the people of Accra, Madasi. To Ghana overall, Madasi. This one's here for you, Madasi. Madasi. Institute of African Studies at the university. One word describe how I felt when I landed free. Lunch at Jam Rock, East Legon. Vibing to the roots, reggae blazing on. Who call he? Back to the motherland, you know me. Chilling on the beach, white sand. Ray FE, sun shining in Osu. When I come back, this is what I wanna do. I wanna never go back. That's a fact, bring my skill. Hip hop university I build. Culture is vibing, the people are ready. The history is deep rooted and steady. That's why the title of this song is Madasi. It means thank you, that is what I wanna do. Peace and respect, all massive and crew. Peace and respect, all massive and crew. I say Madasi. To the people of Accra, say Madasi. To Ghana overall, say Madasi. This one's here for you, say Madasi. Madasi.